This is The Space Shot, episode 371 for June 17th, 2018. Martian dust, jewelry, and summer plans. I'm John Molnix. A lot has happened since we spoke last. A massive dust storm on Mars has forced the Mars Exploration Rover Opportunity to switch into a low power level mode, a necessity since the dust is blocking the sunlight from reaching the panels on this little rover. Earlier this week, I listened to a briefing on the operations for Opportunity during this event. While the dust storms are blocking sunlight that's needed for power, the dust that's carried in the Martian atmosphere does absorb and store heat, meaning that even though the rover isn't powered up and able to warm itself overnight, the ambient temperature around Opportunity is warmer than usual, which is crucial to the survival of the now 14-year-old rover. It can't get too cold at night. NASA is noting that this event is the, quote, perfect storm for science, since there are 3 spacecraft in orbit, plus Curiosity on the surface during this event. The Curiosity rover is nuclear-powered, so it's going to be able to send back science during this event, even though it's out of the primary area of the storm. Dust storms are a frequent feature of life on Mars, so this isn't all that uncommon of a storm. The last massive dust storm on Mars was observed in 2007, and these events can last from weeks to months. NASA notes that the current storm, quote, now blankets 14 million square miles of Martian surface, about a quarter of the planet. I'm linking to a NASA article with more resources. Also, be sure to check out the Facebook page for The Space Shot to see more. Speaking of Facebook, I've got an announcement for here and another page that I manage. I'll be sharing a video with the official announcement next week, but for those of you that listen to the podcast, you're going to get an early heads up. As many of you know, I work for AT&T, but before I worked there, I was a professional jeweler for over a decade. As I prepare to get back into grad school here soon, hopefully sooner rather than later, I have decided to start working on jewelry again for a couple of reasons. I do miss working with my hands a lot of the time, being able to create pieces, fix things, soldering, polishing, all that goes into jewelry repair is a lot of fun. I've also had a couple ideas on how to tie space into jewelry work, and I'm excited to share those projects with all of you here in the future. In addition to working in traditional mediums like gold, silver, and platinum, I plan on using aerospace-grade materials in unusual ways. I also want to start getting into 3D printing. Being able to work on projects where I'm designing and creating exciting space and science-related designs sounds pretty cool to me. Plus, it's probably not a bad idea to figure out how to use a 3D printer. My day job isn't going anywhere just yet. I'm excited to start working with my hands again, and in addition to creating the podcast, reading, and writing, I'm going to be staying busy with jewelry work. I'd love for this to transition into something that I can do full-time, so we'll see where it goes. Being able to integrate my love of space, science, and communications with jewelry work and manufacturing sounds like a great combination to me. Now, let's talk a little bit about some pop culture and space history. June 15th is the anniversary of the Star Trek The Next Generation episode Time's Arrow Part 1. This is one of my mom's favorite Star Trek episodes, and it's one of my favorites as well. June 16th is the anniversary of the launch of Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman in space. She made her historic flight on June 16th, 1963. Just over 20 years later, on June 18, 1983, Sally Ride became the first American woman in space when she launched on the Shuttle Challenger. For the rest of June, I've got an interview episode that's wrapped up that will be airing probably next week. I've still got to get it cleared. I've also got a few more interviews coming up that I'm really excited about. We're also going to be hearing from Dave Ruppel about the proposed Spaceport Colorado project that's been in Colorado news here lately. I also really enjoyed my conversation with David Hitt about Skylab, so I'm going to be planning more author interviews coming up soon. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the now weekly episodes. Looking ahead to July, I've got a very busy month between a road trip and podcast interviews. We've got an exceptional guest for the Cosmosphere podcast that will be airing in August's episode. I am extremely excited to have him on the show, and I'll give some more hints as this date approaches. I'm not entirely sure about the timeline for the road trip I'm going to be taking, but my girlfriend and I are going to be going to New Mexico. We'll visit White Sands and also some museums in Santa Fe. I'm sure the trip to White Sands will influence some of the pieces I'm going to be making, and I'll get some good history while we're down there, so stay tuned. That's it for this week. Until next time, I'm John Molnix, and I'll catch you on the flip side.